Okay, 9/11 was one of the most infamous days in our history, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about it. You may have heard of some of the heroes of 9/11. You heard about the firefighters, you heard about the first responders, the police officers, the amazing work that they did. Um, but one person that you might not have heard of is a gentleman by the name of Rick Rescorla. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about groupthink and his heroic actions on 9/11 2001. I'm MysterE. This is MysterE's Mysteries, and I'm here to talk to you all about the amazing world of psychology. So, 9/11 2001, we hear all about it. We hear about the almost 3,000 people that died. We hear about the first responders and the firefighters that bravely ran up the stairs trying to save people. But there's one person that we might not have heard of, and his name is Rick Rescorla. Rick Rescorla is one of the most amazing individuals in the history of the United States, of the world, really. Originally from the UK, he fought in Vietnam for the United States, and he went on to be an educator in the United States and then to work security. So Army hero, Bronze Star, Silver Star, Purple Heart. I mean, he did it all, and he ended up working as a security contractor, and he worked for one of a very large financial firm that ultimately turned into what is called Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, which many of us has heard. There's Morgan Stanley, there's Dean Witter, and then Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. He worked for them. And Morgan Stanley Dean Witter was one of the largest employers of individuals that worked in the World Trade Center, specifically the South Tower. And Rick Rescorla went to work with them in the late 1980s. And he brought in a subcontractor by the name of Daniel Hall. And many of you don't know about this, but what they did is they went in, and Rescorla was like, okay, there was just the bombing of the Pan Am flight over Scotland. And so Rick Rescorla was like, okay, let's see if a terrorist could attack the Twin Towers. Now, mind you, there's an entire police force, the Port Authority of New York, that's in charge of this. But Rick Rescorla was like, I want to take a look at this. So he brought in Daniel Hill, and they took a look. And Daniel Hill, who is from the United States, he is an expert in counterterrorism. Him and Rescorla walked around the entire World Trade Center campus, which was large, huge, multiple billion buildings, more than just the Twin Towers. And they both came to the conclusion that if there were a terrorist attack, this was in 1988-89, if there was a terrorist attack, it was going to occur in the basement. Okay? In the basement was a parking garage. Rick Rescorla, Daniel Hill, they walked right down into the basement, into the parking garage. They were never stopped by anybody. They walked right down into there, and they went to a load-bearing beam, and Daniel Hill looked at Rick Rescorla, and he said, this is exactly where I would park a truck with a ton of fertilizer bomb in it. And Port Authority wouldn't listen to them. They participated in something called groupthink, where they would much rather maintain harmony than to start thinking about some of the possibilities out there of what could go wrong. And ultimately, in 1993, there was a first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and it was 30 feet from where Rick Rescorla and Daniel Hill said it would occur. So we fast forward to the mid-90s. Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, one of the largest firms, financial firms in the world, with the senior executives that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars in the mid to late 90s. Rick Rescorla said, I really don't care how much you're worth because it doesn't matter if you're dead. He goes, you're going to listen to me and you're going to do what I say, because the Twin Towers are Not only a beacon of freedom, a beacon of democracy, a beacon of capitalism, all of that stuff, but it's also a big, giant opening for terrorists to attack. And he said, so every 3 months, we are going to run a simulated practice on how we are going to get out of the Twin Towers if there is a terrorist attack. Daniel Hill and Rick Rescorla both said in the mid-90s, they both said the terrorist attack is more than likely going to come from the air. Like they said that. They said the terrorist attack will come from the air. It just blows your mind away. So Rick Rescorla just demanded every 3 months they were going to do this drill, no matter what. And he would get on this blowhorn and he would announce to the people what they were doing. They would all gather in the stairwell and they would march down. And they would do this every 3 months. It drove the executives crazy. And this is going to just blow your mind away. So September 11th occurs, and just before 9 p.m., just before 9 a.m., the North Tower gets hit by a plane. When this occurs, if you've ever been in the World Trade Center towers, they have this speaker system that the Port Authority controls, and there are announcements that go to all of the floors. And the announcement in the South Tower, immediately after the North Tower got hit, the announcements by the Port Authority was, stay where you're at. The North Tower is the one that was impacted by this. The South Tower is totally fine. Rick Rescorla said, screw that noise. We are going to go into our mode and we are going to get everybody out of the building. And he ignored that announcement. He started the evacuation procedure that they had practiced every 3 months for some 7 years. And Rick Rescorla ended up escorting 2,700 Morgan Stanley Dean Witter employees out of the building before the South Tower collapsed. Now, once all of the employees got out, Rick Rescorla went back into the building. And as everybody was fleeing, as everybody was leaving the building, the last person alive that saw Rick Rescorla saw him on the 10th floor walking up to see if he could save anybody else. And they believe that when the towers collapsed, Rick Rescorla was somewhere around the 14th floor. Now, this is not just simply a story about a hero of 9/11, which it most certainly is. By the way, President Donald Trump actually awarded Rick Rescorla posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom that is given to citizens that do remarkable things. So he was honored that way. And his heroicism is unparalleled. And it's incredible what he accomplished. But I think all of these things that led up to this heroic act was all about him challenging the status quo. In everything that he did, was he the squeaky, whatever you want to say, what he did is he challenged the group. And when you have something called groupthink is once again where a bunch of people, oftentimes the smartest people around, get in a room and they all agree with each other. On whatever the plan might be, they all agree with each other because they would much rather maintain harmony than to actually look at things in reality. And that's what Rick Rescorla did. He broke through that groupthink. He said, no, you might think that. Everybody might think that, but I don't. I don't believe that. I believe that this is a terrorist attack. I believe that the terrorist attack is going to occur in the basement. I believe the terrorist attack is going to occur through the air. When nobody else was saying these things, he was. He refused to go along with the status quo. And because of that, he saved 2,700 people. Highly recommend that you check out Rick Rescorla a little bit more. Incredible, incredible story. Hey, a reminder, check us out on Instagram, TikTok for as long as it's available, Facebook, YouTube Shorts. We have been getting tons of views. We want to keep that going. We want to keep that momentum going. Make sure that you subscribe to us on our podcasts on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. And also, I want to give a huge shout out to our director and producer, Bear Wade of Unify Creative Agency. If you are looking towards starting your own influencing deals, if you're looking towards starting a business and you need a top line marketer, Bear Wade is the absolute man for you. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk soon.